What's up guys, MizzoFrizzo here, and in this Unreal Engine 5 tutorial I'm going to show you how to set up hand sway. So as you can see here, when I look around, we've got some nice sort of lagging across the screen here, and if I aim down the sides you can see that when I aim around we've got this sort of barrel wander going on, and if I move side to side we've got this slight rotation here as well. I'm also going to show you how to dial this up or down for different weapons. So as you can see, if I pick up this assault rifle, it's not quite as profound, and if I pick up this shotgun, you'll see that it is very profound indeed. It's very easy to set up, guys, so without further ado, let me show you how to do this. Alrighty guys, now I'm here in my project and all I've done is I've set up my ultimate weapons system with a first person character. So if I hit play here, you'll see I've got this first person character, but everything else is the same. And as I said at the beginning of the ultimate weapons system tutorial, it does not matter which kind of game you're making, that system will work with any kind of game. But I basically just set this up in first person with the left hand IK so that we can more clearly see the hand sway at work. And I've just made this basic aiming animation for my pistol so we can also demonstrate the different hand sway rotation while aiming. So with all that being said, let's open up our character's blueprint, which for me is BP first person character, and I am going to start by creating a function, and I'm going to call it get hand sway data. And this is going to have a few outputs. Let's create one output and change it to type float, and then add two more outputs. So you've got three outputs, all of type float, and we'll call the first one side move. We'll call the next one mouse X, and we'll call the last one mouse Y. And what we're going to do now is get our input action values and pass these through. So if I look for get IA move, you'll see this enhanced action values, IA move. And if you've got more than one of these, it means that you've got more than one input action in your project. So for example, when I added the first person content pack to my third person project, I had the input folder in the first person folder, and I also had the inputs folder in the third person folder. So you want to just make sure that the input mapping context that you're using is using all of the actions from one place to keep things simple. So I assigned all of my ones to this IMC default in the first person folder. All of my actions are in here, and I've deleted the input folder from the third person folder to make sure I've only got one of these that come up. I can right click on this and split the struct bin, and I'm going to take the return value X and plug it into the side move. I can also search for get mouse X, and again this will be under mouse values, mouse X, and also get mouse Y. Mouse values, mouse Y, plug this in here like so. And now we are going to call this function in our animation blueprint so that we can pass these values over to our animation blueprint. So I'm just going to select my mesh right here, which is for me the first person mesh, and I'm going to browse to my anim class here, ABP tray C. So this is the animation blueprint that I've made for the metahuman arms that I've placed on my first person character. I'm going to open this up, and here in the event graph I am going to first add a pin, an execution pin. I'm going to duplicate this character reference here, and I am going to call my get hand sway data function inside of my character blueprint. Plug in the execution pin here. I might make a reroute node to try and keep things neat. And then I'm going to select these two here and right click and collapse nodes. And I'm just going to call this calculate hand sway rotation, something like that. I can double click this and open this up, and this is where we're going to keep all of our hand sway rotation calculations. So there's a little bit that goes into using each of these to add to a rotator that we'll use to rotate the hand bones. So we'll just go through it one by one. The first thing I'm going to find is a map range clamped, and this side move is going to plug into the value here, and I'm going to make the in range -1, the out range, in range B +1, so -1 to +1, and then this I'm going to make this -5 to +5. Basically, this is taking the input on your A and D keys when you move sideways will output a value from -1 to +1, and this is just basically multiplying that value by 5. Essentially, that's what this is doing. But we actually want this to act differently if we're aiming. So I'm going to duplicate this now and also plug this into the value up here, and this will be our aiming one. And I'm just going to dial this down to something like -2 to +2. And this is essentially how far the hands will rotate. And then we will use an finterp2 to dictate how fast they will rotate. But what I'm going to do is get my aiming boolean, and I am going to also get a select float. I'm going to plug my aiming boolean into the pick A right here, and this will go into A, this will go into B. So if we're aiming, it will use this output, and if we're not aiming, it will use this output. We can also get an finterp2 and plug this return value into the target here. And at this point, I'm going to create a new variable, and I'm going to call it hand sway rotator. And this will be of type rotator. I am going to get this, and I'm going to right click on the pin and split the struct pin. And I'm going to plug Y into the current on the finterp2. Delta time, we can just get delta seconds. And the interp speed, I'm just going to make this something like 5 for now. You can play around with this. So like I said, this is sort of how far the hands will rotate, and this will be how aggressive they rotate, how fast they rotate. That's pretty much it set up for the side move here. I'm just going to move this out of the way, and I'm going to set the hand sway rotator, and I'm going to split the struct pin here, and this will need to plug into the corresponding pin from here. So here we're using hand sway rotator Y, the pitch. So this return value will plug into hand sway rotator Y pitch, like so. And that is basically it for moving sideways. What we can do is we can grab all of this and duplicate it down here. I'm going to plug in mouse X into this reroute node, and I'm going to hold Control and click and drag this onto Z. And everything else should be able to stay the same. This return value, as I said, will plug into the corresponding pin. So this will plug into the Z. And then let's duplicate all of this one more time. Plug in the mouse Y. This will move into the X, like so. And the other change we need to do with the mouse Y, because Y is inverted, we need to change these in ranges to the inverse. So this will be +1 to -1. And this will also be +1 to -1, like so. And this just needs to plug into the corresponding pin, which is the last one left. Hand sway rotator X. And let's compile. And now all we need to do is basically apply this rotator to some bones. So we can go over to the enum graph, and it is kind of important where you place these nodes. They have to come before your left-hand IK. So just quickly, in this project, I have it set up to do the IK in each one of these state machines so that it's separate for pistol, assault rifle, and shotgun. But I'm just going to quickly go in here and I'm just going to cut these nodes out, plug this in, and I'm going to go back to the enum graph and I'm going to paste these in front of my weapon enums right here. Depends how you've got it set up, but if you've been following along with my other tutorials, it should be set up fairly similar to this. Now, there is some extra stuff going on in here. I've got this should left hand IK set up only in here in the assault rifle, but I'm not actually using it. I'm going to delete that stuff, and I'm also going to go into my shotgun anims and delete the left hand IK stuff from in there. Sorry about that, I should have done that ahead of time. But basically all I've done is take all my left hand IK nodes and I've just got them once here in front of my cached pose weapon anims and before my layered blend per bone. So this is the left hand IK right here. And you can ignore this stuff. This is basically just my way of blending out my locomotion animations because it was throwing out my aiming animation on the pistol, but you can ignore that. So basically where we're going to be working is right here before the 2-bone IK on our left hand IK setup. And what I'm going to do is right click on the background here and search for mod and get a transform modify bone. I can plug this in here. And with this selected, I'm going to go to the details panel and I'm going to unexpose translation as a pin. So uncheck expose as pin. I'm going to keep rotation exposed, but I'm going to change rotation mode to add to existing, and scale, unexpose that as a pin, alpha, unexpose that as a pin. Whoops, changed it to dynamic. Unexpose that as a pin. So you've just got this one pin rotation and the rotation mode is set to add to existing. Now that I've done that, I'm going to select the bone to modify as the left hand. And I'm going to duplicate this and change the bone to modify on the second one to the right hand, like so. Plug this in here and grab my hand sway rotator and plug these in. And if I hit compile now and press play, you'll see that when I turn, my hands are turning, and when I look up and down, they're also looking around. And it can be a little hard to see with this sort of jogging animation coming through from my lower body. But if I aim down the sights and I move to the side, you'll see that the hands are tipping side to side a little bit. And as I look around, the barrel is also swaying ever so slightly. Now there is a nice little layer that we can add to this that will give it a little bit more of a dynamic feel, and that is to make the hands in relation to the camera sort of move around. So they're very locked into this one position at the bottom here and they're just rotating. But what I can do is I can go back into the animation blueprint and I'm going to duplicate this node one more time, and I'm going to set the bone to modify as one of the spine bones. I'm going to set it to spine 5. And basically what this is doing, because the character mesh in this character is parented to the camera, it goes where the camera goes. I'm basically rotating the spine bones so that the hands will move relative to the camera. So I've changed this to spine 5. I'm going to duplicate this hand sway rotator, and I'm going to split the struct pin here and also split the struct pin here. And I'm just going to take the X and the Z because those are my mouse X and mouse Y. And I need to basically just get a multiplier here so that I have some control over what this is doing. And if I plug these into the corresponding X and Z here and I make this multiplier multiply by 1. What you'll see is that the hands will sort of move in the direction that you're looking. And if this is what you're going for, then this could be quite nice for you. But what I've noticed is that it looks a bit unnatural aiming down the sights. You could have this switch off while you're aiming down the sights, but I think what can actually make this look a lot nicer is if we change these multipliers to be -1 and -1. And now the hands will kind of lag behind wherever you turn. So if I turn to the right, they'll lag to the left a bit. If I turn to the left, they'll lag to the right. And this, in my opinion, is a bit more realistic because your eyes move faster than your hands. And if you turn and you aim, you'll see that his aim kind of catches up with his eye a little bit. I can aim and I can look around, and this just has more of a fluid, more realistic feel, in my opinion. You can even, so as a bonus, I'm going to show you how to set this up to be different for different weapons. And for the record, you can do this kind of thing to manipulate anything. So you could have these, you could promote these floats to variables, you could promote the interp speed to a variable, so that's different for each weapon. But just as an example, I'm just going to show you how to do it with this sort of lag that we've got on the screen here. How we're going to do it is we're going to store this as a variable in our weapons. So I'm going to go to my project folder, props and weapons, and open up BP Weapon Master. And I'm going to add a new variable here, and I'm just going to call it hand sway multiplier. And I'm going to change it to type float. I'm going to compile, and I'm going to make the default value of hand sway multiplier -1. And then I'm going to go into my weapons. Let's go into pistols A. And here in the class defaults, I can change the hand sway multiplier to something like -2 to make it a bit more extreme. I'm going to leave the assault rifle as the default, -1. And I'm going to change the shotgun to something like -2.5 to make it even more extreme than the pistol, just so that we can see the difference there. So we've set those inside of the weapon blueprints, but now we need access to those in the animation blueprint. And instead of doing what we do with the movement data, which is updating this on event blueprint update animation, so this will constantly be updating, we only really need to change this kind of variable when we switch weapons. So what I'm actually going to do is set it in the animation blueprint from my character's blueprint. So I'm going to go to my character's blueprint, and the first thing I'm going to do is create a reference to my animation blueprint in on event begin play, so that I can basically cast to it, and I will just be able to reference that whenever I want. So I'm going to add a pin here, and I'm just going to move all this stuff down and put this first at the top here. And what I'm going to do is cast to my ABP, cast to ABP tray, which is the animation blueprint that my character is using. And on the object here, I can get the enum instance. Whoops, if I can spell, get the enum instance on the mesh. So first person mesh is my character mesh. Get an enum instance on the first person mesh, like so. And then I can promote this to a variable, and I'm just going to call it NMBP, like so. So now I can grab this reference to NMBP, and I can do stuff in the animation blueprint from my character's blueprint. And casting in this instance is perfectly fine, because actually our animation blueprint is casting to our character anyway. So basically this just means that as long as the blueprint exists, as long as either of these blueprints exists, the other one is loaded as well. So this really doesn't make too much of a difference here. If you've got a character loaded, its animation blueprint is going to be loaded as well. It's going to be using an animation blueprint, so this is fine. And now, so I've got this set up to spawn my pistol on event begin play so that I start with a pistol. So anywhere where you pick up a weapon, you spawn a weapon, or you swap weapons, you're going to have to set this hand sway multiplier in your animation blueprint. So what I'm going to do is just do it pretty much anywhere I see this set current weapon enum, because this is updated in the animation blueprint as well. So actually what I can do if I'm doing this cast is I can also take this away from my animation blueprint here where we set the current weapon enum. I can actually just, I'm going to go ahead and delete this, and I'm actually going to set this from my animation blueprint, from my character blueprint as well, sorry. So here, instead of doing this, I can get my NMBP here, and in the NMBP, I can set the current weapon enum as the weapon name right here. And then also in the animation blueprint, I can, I need to create the float in my animation blueprint. So that's the one thing I forgot, is what I'm going to do is actually go to my anim graph, and I'm going to drag off of here and promote this to a variable and call it hand sway multiplier. Hopefully I spelt that correctly. This will plug into both of these. And now that this is in here, now I can go to my character and I can set the hand sway multiplier. And we're going to set the hand sway multiplier as the hand sway multiplier inside of the weapon. So I can drag off of here and get my hand sway multiplier. Plug this in here. Nice. And now anywhere where I see this, I'm also going to do this. And what I can do is just grab these nodes like so. And the first place I'm going to change it is in my spawn weapon logic right here. So here where we set the current weapon enum, I can grab this stuff. I can delete this, make a little bit more space here. This will plug in here, and this will plug in here. And obviously this has to be neat and tidy, so uno momento por favor. Nice, and that's basically what we want to do anytime we spawn a weapon or switch a weapon. So we will also have to do this at the end of our weapon switching logic. So I'm going to bring this in here, and I am going to delete current weapon enum there. And then to make this a bit quicker, what I'm actually going to do is just delete this stuff off each one and just use this whole setup on each one like so. Nice. So now anytime we pick up a weapon or switch a weapon, that's right. I just need to plug the current weapon here into the get hand sway multiplier like so. There we go. So now anytime we pick up a weapon or switch weapons, we are using this cast to the animation blueprint to set the current weapon enum in the animation blueprint and also set the hand sway multiplier. And we can literally just delete the current weapon enum variable right now. It says it's in use. I'm not, yes, no, sorry. We will keep it because we might be using it. We might be using it in other places that I can't think of right in this moment. But that should all be working now. So if we hit play, I've got the pistol. I've got this quite quite a big sway going on the screen. If I pick up the assault rifle, it should be less, and it is quite a bit less. And if I grab the shotgun, it should be really quite noticeable here. This shotgun doesn't have a stock. It's also probably quite heavy. So this to me seems realistic. It also just feels good that you might, swing and then boom. And, it's a big heavy hitting gun, and it's got this sway going on. But yeah, that's all working correctly now. And that wasn't too hard to set up, was it? Guys, if this tutorial has been of any use or value to you whatsoever, please hit like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one.